We want to get to some international news now with Colonel Cedric Leighton, retired U.S. Air Force and president of Cedric Leighton Associates. Colonel, great to have you with us. Thanks for being here.
Jonathan, it's great to be with you. How are you today?
Good, thank you, sir. I want to talk to you about China and this new aircraft carrier, but first of all, just before we do that, could I get your thoughts on the official announcement today of the end of the Iraq war? President Obama said yesterday that it has been an extraordinary achievement and we leave a more stable nation. How do you look back on this 8.5-year war?
Well, I was there for the very beginning of the Iraq War. I was part of the shock and awe campaign from an air perspective, and you know, I have mixed feelings about it. I think we have achieved considerable success in terms of creating a viable, semi-democratic nation in Iraq. On the other hand, of course, there was a lot of blood and treasure that was lost in Iraq. I think that you know, the idea that we can leave Iraq and maintain a secure Middle East is not necessarily the case. We have to be very careful with that. I know it's great to bring our troops home, but on the other side of it, of course, there's Iran. There are all the other issues going on in Syria, and we leave a very volatile Middle East, and I'm not sure that leaving Iraq at this point in time is really the best move from a geostrategic standpoint. Politically, it'll play well, but geostrategically, it may be a different story.
Given the attitude of the Iraqi leadership, though, we didn't really have much choice at this point, did we, Colonel?
That's true. When you look at you know, what happened internally to Iraq, what they are dealing with is the status of forces agreement between Iraq and the United States, and quite frankly, right now, Jonathan, there is none. The reason for that is because they wanted to, the American side, of course, wanted to get immunity for our soldiers, and from a legal standpoint, and of course, the Iraqis weren't willing to give that to us because of some of the issues that had happened during the run-up from 2003 up until, at least until the surge period. So there were some viable reasons on both sides not to have it, but the final decision, of course, was made that our soldiers need to have that kind of protection before they can actually physically stay in a place like Iraq, and that's why we are in the situation that we're in right now.
All right, let's get to China. This unveiling of an aircraft carrier, a very sophisticated-looking aircraft carrier. First of all, before we get to the imagery of it and everything and what you make of it, what does it say about China's ambitions, militarily speaking, Colonel?
Well, militarily speaking, China is really on the ascent, and what they're looking at here is they're trying to create a situation using this aircraft carrier, which they bought from the Ukrainians, and using that as a means to project their power. So it's a power projection mechanism for them. What it means is that they will then be able, from a military standpoint, be able to take their forces not only from the coastal areas of China, but anywhere they want to, at least within the Western Pacific, as long as their fuel supply does not run out. And that is really the basic idea behind it. It's a power projection tool for them. And of course, given the situations with Taiwan, given the situation in the South China Sea, where the Spratly Islands become a huge issue of contention between China, Vietnam, Taiwan, the Philippines, and even Malaysia, there is going to be a huge issue between what the Chinese want to do and what all the other nations in Southeast Asia want to do with that particular area. And the Chinese are staking a claim right now to the Pacific.
So how far are they off from becoming a military superpower? Indeed, are they already a military superpower? And are we headed towards a new Cold War, China facing off with the U.S., Colonel?
Well, those are both $64,000 questions, as we used to say. I would say that China is not a superpower right now. They are a major regional power. And of course, as a regional power, in some circles known as a regional hegemon, these countries, like China, have a lot of weight with their neighbors. So all of the nations in Southeast Asia are seeking to balance their local interests with what the Chinese are trying to do, and they also keep a wary eye on what the United States States is doing, because in many cases they will want U.S. protection to help them with all the different things that they are trying to work both economically, politically, and quite frankly militarily. So that really is what the Chinese are working on right now. As far as a conflict with the Chinese is concerned, I see that it is a possibility. Right now I give it less than 40% chance of happening, but there are certain things, certain factors within the Chinese makeup that will allow for an expansion of nationalism within China. When you look at China itself, you see that the Chinese have basically developed a very structured approach to regaining their national prestige. And you have people like the Chinese Premier Hu Jintao making comments to the Navy to prepare for combat. That sounds very ominous, and those are the kinds of things that we need to pay attention to, because what the Chinese are seeking to redress are really grievances from the 19th century. We had the Opium Wars with Britain, you had all of the extraterritoriality, which means the different European and also Japan, different European states and Japan took over large portions of Chinese territory. The Chinese still feel that, and they want to regain their status as the Middle Kingdom. And that is why we are seeing the kinds of developments right now, such as the aircraft carrier, such as their more aggressive stance in international diplomacy, and some other military moves that they're definitely contemplating, not to mention, of course, the whole cyber piece.
Now, the satellite images we got of this aircraft carrier seem pretty extraordinary to me. Colonel, how important are they in giving us intelligence on exactly what capabilities China has aboard that kind of aircraft carrier?
Jonathan, satellite imagery is a huge, huge deal, and the Google Earth pictures are phenomenal. Back when I started my military career, I would have probably given half a month's salary in order to have imagery of that quality. Obviously, the military has improved its satellite imagery collection capability, and now, of course, you see private firms like Google Earth being able to do similar, if not almost the same things from a commercial standpoint. So these images are a significant way in which we can detect not only what the Chinese are doing in terms of where they're going with their aircraft carrier physically, but also what kinds of capabilities that aircraft carrier has, how many people are on board that aircraft carrier, what types of weapons they have on board that aircraft carrier, such as what aircraft, how far they fly those aircraft, all kinds of things like that. It can help us really determine what Chinese intentions are. It won't be conclusive, but it'll be part of the jigsaw puzzle that makes it all part of the mosaic that we look at when it comes to the intelligence picture. And it's a very, very big deal.
All right, Colonel Cedric Leighton, president of Cedric Leighton Associates. Fascinating to talk to you, Colonel. Thank you so much for your time today.
Jonathan, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.